Hello, and welcome to our video today about sectionalism and how compromises affected different parts of the country and tried to keep the country together. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to talk about the Missouri Compromise first. So, backstory. In 1819, Missouri applied for statehood. Settlers had come from Virginia and Kentucky where slavery was legal. It was A-OK. At the time, there were 11 free states and 11 slave states. And this is important because that meant that because each state gets an equal number of senators, neither the free states or the slave states had all the power. So, if Missouri comes in as a slave state, suddenly there are more slave states and slavery might be legal everywhere. If Missouri comes in as a free state, suddenly there are more free states and slavery might be legal nowhere. Henry Clay proposed the Missouri Compromise. Missouri came in as a slave state. Maine came in as a free state. A line was drawn at 3630, and that kind of gave people a way to determine for future territory. And it worked fine for a while. If you were south of the line, then slavery was unfortunately legal. If you were north of the line, slavery was illegal. The Missouri Compromise is a temporary solution to a huge problem of slavery. It's like putting a Band-Aid on something that really needs stitches or getting cleaned out at a hospital. So we got more land, which created new problems. Southerners wanted the new land that we gained in the Mexican Cession to remain open to slavery. They said things like, Congress has no right to regulate slavery, John C. Calhoun. Versus the Free Soil Party proposed the Wilmot Proviso. And that banned slavery in any new land that was acquired from Mexico. Their slogan was free soil, free labor, and free men. And it failed in Congress, but Southerners worried that the Wilmot Proviso, or the intensity the abolitionists had, might lead to slavery being banned everywhere. So again, they formed the Free Soil Party, and their slogan was free soil, free labor, and free men. They didn't want people coming west to have to compete with enslaved people for jobs. It's kind of racist. It is racist, but it's also the perspective that they had at the time. So they had to compromise again. Southerners want there to be a stronger fugitive slave law. A fugitive is someone running away from something. California had a lot of people thanks to the gold rush, and they wanted to come into the Union as a free state. So the South was okay with that if the territories of New Mexico and Utah used popular sovereignty, where people vote to determine whether they'd have slavery. Abolitionists were okay with that if Washington, D.C. slave markets would be closed so that no slaves would be sold in the nation's capital. Let's talk about the Fugitive Slave Law. So anyone who helped a fugitive or a self-liberating slave could be jailed or fined. Anyone suspected of being a runaway slave could be captured, including free black citizens. The courts weren't supposed to do that, but they weren't really that into the legal accuracy, and they were paid court fees if they returned slaves to their masters. So the Underground Railroad helped work to help runaways find their way to freedom, usually up north in Canada, sometimes down south in Mexico. Henry David Thoreau wrote an essay called Civil Disobedience, encouraging citizens not to obey the Fugitive Slave Law. He protested as well by not paying his taxes, and he was jailed. He said, if the law requires you to be the agent of injustice to another, then you should break the law. So that's it. The Missouri Compromise held things together for a while until we got new land under the Mexican Cession. The Compromise of 1850 held it together a little longer and passed a stronger fugitive slave law. And that is it.